Saturday morning, going on an adventure in the San Francisco hood, checking out the Cherry Blossom Festival. Charlie, you want to say hi? E-I-O. Charlie, still stuff in your face? Still stuff in your face? Walking home. Charlie, are we walking home? Say hi.
Doorbell.
Yeah, you see the doorbell?
Yeah.
Yeah? Walking. What's that?
Ding dong,
Ding
ding dong.
dong, ding dong.
Ding dong.
Ding dong. Can you say hi?
Ding dong. Hi.
Got a pretty interesting thing about to happen. An acquaintance of mine reached out to me that he wanted to do a little meetup poker thing for a friend's bachelor party, and wanted to see if we can get like a home game or a dealer to do it. Couldn't find anybody for him, so I ended up deciding I was just going to kind of deal it for them. And that's when he was like, you know, that'd be awesome. You can kind of also kind of do a little course, teach us. So that's what we're about to do. It should be pretty interesting. At the movies, about to see Black Panther. Oh yeah. Whoa, Charlie! That's not nice! We just spent all that time making that! Oh my gosh, didn't even get to fully finish recording. Ay. Sunday morning, Charlie's destroying things. It was pretty cool. It's no longer cool because it's taken apart. I haven't played any poker this weekend, and so as a result, this video is actually going to highlight an episode that I had taken quite some time ago, but it kind of talks about something that I think that's really important. Let's get into that. Alright guys, hope you guys had a great weekend. Peace! What up YouTube? On our way to the casino to play some PLO. The game of Limit Omaha. Hopefully that lives up to Joey Ingram's standards. Alright, one thing that I also wanted to talk about, I had a lengthy conversation last night with a good buddy of mine regarding a couple of things. The first of which I wanted to speak about was just variance in poker, and kind of, loving the variance. Unfortunately, today's Thursday, I played PLO on Tuesday as well, and I lost. The first time, unfortunately, the lucky t-shirt did go down in flames, took its first loss. There's one hand I want to talk about, kind of probably the biggest reason that I ended up losing. Maybe I would have won or broke about even if not for this hand. Not a big fan of how I played it. So there's a guy in the game. He's probably like one of the biggest spots in the casino. He's a guy that people regularly kind of come and play for. And he's kind of full board, just blasting off, playing like every single hand, raising, re-raising. So he opens to 30, I think it is. Now the player to my immediate right, who's a regular, he raises, and I now repot to, I think it was 370 was the maximum I can make. So I don't remember the exact action up until this point, but I was able to full pot it to 370. It folds back to the action player. He calls 370, and now it's on the player to my right who had opened. He's kind of tanking, and it feels like he's thinking about putting in a 4-bet, and obviously I'm kind of hoping that he does. Unfortunately, I have bad aces. I have ace-ace 9-3 with the 9-3 of hearts. So I'm kind of thinking like, man, am I willing to get in 2K here? There's really not much I'm going to be able to do, but I think if he does 4-bet, he's always going to have aces, and it's going to suck because I have about as bad as it gets aces, really, other than the fact that they could be completely rainbow. So he tanks for a while and ends up calling. So we go 3 to a flop, which comes jack 6-3 rainbow. There is a heart, so I have a backdoor 9 high flush draw. And now the action player leads into the both of us for 700. The player in between kind of tanks for a while, thinks for a bit, and ends up folding. And now it's on me, and I'm kind of leaning towards folding. I feel like the action player leading in this pot, he's quite likely to have flopped like 2 pair, or maybe like a pair and a gutter. The thing is he'll do this a lot with like hands that are like pair plus, you know, gutter. Like he could easily have something like 6-5-4, 7-6-5-4. Well, actually that would be open-ended, which would obviously be a pretty good hand. But it feels to me like he's super wide here, given that I have about like a 1.3 SPR in this situation. I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that I just can't fold here on this raggedy board against this player. I do have a 3, so I block some sets and some 2-player combos. And I eventually end up talking myself into a flat. I feel like jamming here is just kind of overplaying the hand. I think that, you know, if some really bad turns come off, like a 7 or a deuce, I can decide to fold my additional, I think I had about 900. Which is pretty bad. I should be, if I'm going to be doing anything on this board, I should just be getting it in or folding. So I end up calling, and the turn is a king of hearts. So now we pick up a 9 high flush draw, and he checks. And at this point, when he checks, I'm thinking like, okay, you know, I could possibly have the best hand here with aces. Now that I think back on it, I think I like just checking back to realize equity. He's not going to fold any of his hands that he hits, and similarly, I think he's going to check back, or he's going to check the river to me a lot if he doesn't improve, so I can make some exploitative folds versus a specific opponent. I've played with him a decent amount, and he kind of just doesn't really bluff too much. So I think that if he ends up bricking here on the river, like if he doesn't have like some strong 2-pair or a set, he's just going to check the river to me, and I can, like, you know, end up checking back and hope that aces are good. But when he does check to me, I kind of feel like I don't want to put myself in some difficult decisions on the river. I feel like aces could be the best hand, so I rip in the 900 and he snap calls me. The river's a 9, so I make 2-pair. And so I'm just like, 2-pair, and he kind of like rolls his hand over, and I see that he has, I think he has Jack 10 3-5 was his hand. Jack 10 3-5, like a rainbow, maybe 1 suit, something like that. So he ends up flopping top and bottom. Kind of hate how I played it against this specific opponent. I think I could just fold, make an exploitative fold. Like in best case scenario, he's gonna have like a pair here plus like some gutter, and I'm just not doing that great against that hand anyway. So I think that I could just fold here, you know, lose the 370 that I 3-bet pre-flop and just move on. What kind of ends up sucking even more is afterwards the reg to my right ends up saying he had aces as well. He had ace-ace 3-4, I think, no suits, and that's why he himself didn't 5-bet, because he had bad aces. So it really sucks, because obviously if he had 5-bet, chances are maybe we could have gotten in heads up and I would have sucked out. But there's also a chance we would have just gotten it in 3 ways, because once that player calls 370, if he makes like 1,000, I get an 1,800. This player might just not fold 1,500 more, or he might. It really depends on his like mood. There's plenty of times he'll get in 2,000 or 3,000 pre-flop with like a super raggedy hand. So it's not like completely out of the ordinary for him to be able to call 2,000 here with like Jack 10 5-3. So unfortunately I lose that hand, and I end up losing 2,100 on the night. After that hand I had stacked off about 2,000, so that's pretty much, you know, the story of my night, that one hand. I ended up being about stuck 3,500 at like the high point. Maybe at the low point I was stuck like 1,000. So a little bit of a seesaw. That's my situation regarding that. And so what I wanted to talk about was the variance in poker. This specific player, who's an action player, he used to play a fairly large amount. Lately he's kind of been MIA. The stories are that he's been playing some home games, losing a bunch, and just has been kind of turned off to playing poker. And so my point here is you know, unfortunately losing sucks. Nobody likes losing, but I think that as a professional poker player, you also have to sort of embrace the variance. This action player ended up having a great night. He won a bunch, And I was actually genuinely like not only happy for him because he's like a really nice guy, but also happy for the situation. Like, he has to win in order for him to keep playing. You know, nobody wants to come and get their head beat in every single night and keep returning. It's just not something that anyone is interested in. And that brings me to another point regarding interest in doing things that we're good at. Another thing that I'd recently realized, I was talking to my wife, and I had mentioned, you know, I'm in a couple of different fantasy leagues. I've been in some fantasy football and basketball leagues over the last couple of years, and I've always done really well. I'm really competitive. And my question was, like, am I really good at these things? Do I only do things that I'm very good at myself? Like, if I'm bad at something, do I just not have any interest in it? And what kind of made me realize that was, you know, we like playing board games with our family. It's one of our favorite kind of holiday pastimes. And there are some board games I just don't enjoy. And looking on it, I think the reason I don't enjoy them is because I'm not very good at them and I lose. And it's just not really fun losing. What I think is so spectacular about poker is that people are willing to play against the best players in the world, and they don't ask you to spot them anything. You know, if you were to play Michael Jordan in basketball and play him for money, I mean, you're first of all, the only way you'd ever do something like this is you'd probably be like, all right, we're gonna play to 11 and I have to get 10 and you have to tie one hand behind your back, right? You're not going to play the best player in the world at something that they're amazing at and play them straight up, which happens every day at poker. There are individuals who come, saddle up, bring their money, and play against people that are substantially better at them. And it's this variance that allows for that to occur. Because, you know, there isn't necessarily variance in basketball. If I play LeBron James, you know, one-on-one, you know, I'm not going to run into a spot where he's going to, like, sometimes start missing a bunch of jump shots and I'm going to dunk on him. No, not dunking on LeBron James. He's going to crush me, and that'll be the end of that. So, again, we have to embrace this variance in poker. It's because it's what allows us to, as you know, as a professional or as a better player, to be profitable because of this variance. Anyway, my point here, to try to make this long story slightly shorter, is that as a professional player, it does suck to lose, but you have to think of it at the other side. That losing is what allows you to keep playing. If it wasn't for the fact that bad players win from time to time, there wouldn't be any games. You have to embrace that. You know, it's unfortunate that I lost a couple of days ago, but I'm okay with it because, you know, the player that I wanted to win ended up winning, and hopefully he's going to continue to return and keep these games good. And it's not just that he gives action, he creates better games around him because he's an action player. Other people take shots, weaker opponents will also join the game if he's around, and so just overall the game just plays substantially better just because of him. That's all I wanted to say regarding that. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.